You should be participating in this. This is an extremely exciting time. This has never been done before. This could never have been done before. There has never been a time where it could have been done before. And what's amazing and astounding about this as well, the process of going through all of this data, right? I built software that'll go through, uses advanced deep learning techniques, and effectively allows me to interact with the data. Now, it spat out equations and theories that are true across the board of manifestation. Hi, my name is Joseph Alai. Welcome to my channel. And today I want to talk about something amazingly powerful with regards to your reality. What I've been doing over the past couple of years and how that can change your life the same way as it's changed mine. If you look back at this stack right here, this is my stack of manifestation experiments. Now, this is from 2013 to current day. This is only a decent percentage, but this is only about 10% of all the experiment data through manifestation that I actually have available to me. The rest of it is on my machine, and then also in the cloud, and then also on some of my e-writer tablets. But the reason this is important is because as you know, right, I am a manifestation researcher. That is my core, that's what I would consider myself to be, right? I am someone who has taken pride and joy in finding and observing patterns in manifestation that might not be readily available in modern literature or be taught regularly. But luckily for myself, starting in 2011, I met a great man who told me one amazing thing that changed my life forever. And he told me to keep track of my manifestations because it would help me on a rainy day. Now, I didn't all know exactly what that would mean to me, but as you all know, based upon my channel, I teach verifiable manifesting. Now, this is different from mainstream in that this is not tradition passed down, nor is it books read and analyzed or summarized. This is applicable observations of manifestation, the common denominators found in each and every experiment, each and every manifestation. And what's amazing about that is just the same way as there are patterns in the universe, there are laws that govern everything. There are laws that govern consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality, as you will find as you begin to test manifesting. Now, that's absolutely amazing and helpful because it means that there's a predictable way to manifest whatever you want. Now, when I first got into manifesting, I did not believe this was true. This was not true to me. In fact, I was in an extremely dark place. The world had effectively written me off. Doctors had written me off. The court systems had written me off. Friends had written me off. I'd nearly written myself off. And I was left at the mercy of something other than myself, something other than institutions, something other than laws or people. Now, I got, due to the life or death scenarios that I was in, I was drawn into, victimized, and brought into a cult. Now, you can say that's crazy, and it is crazy, but I'll tell you right now, although it is crazy and although I have severed myself with communications from them, they taught me something incredible. They taught me how to manifest. Now, I'm talking about a Christian cult that talked about the esoteric and metaphysical interpretation of the Bible, along with a literal interpretation of the Bible. And what that means and why that's relevant is I learned about the ancient Hebrew and ancient Koine Greek language that was used to create the scriptures. And I found out that it was done so in a code, a sort of algorithm in ancient Hebrew, and through which actually scriptures are teaching us how to manifest. Now, why does that matter? It matters because the grand majority of information that's out there in any sort of churches nowadays don't teach anything like this. And this is not what I am teaching here per se, although there are amazing discoveries that I have, extracted from Scripture that have taught me how to manifest in a predictable way. But what happened to me and what blew my mind is having, so I'm a math guy, right? I'm a numbers guy. I'm a software engineer, computer scientist. I have a background in advanced mathematics and physics. And as that sort of mind, when I was brought into manifesting, and after I had severed myself from the cult and was experimenting with, reading tons of information out there. This is prior to YouTube with regards to manifesting, years and years before. And what I was reading and what I was putting to the test wasn't absolutely accurate. In other words, there would be slight truths that would come my way. I would put it to the test. I would find some results, but it was not systematic. Now, the thing is I was sitting in a math class. It was an advanced math class back in university. It was discrete math 2. This was in Rutgers University. And this was for my computer science degree. And within sitting there, I started to realize that I could take the manifestations that I had been experimenting with and find actual numerical values to explain the probability or represent the probability of these manifestations occurring. Now, what I was doing at that time was listing down a variety of different things as if they were true. And through that process, I was able to determine that in a number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things that I had written down in hopes that I would manifest it, that if they began to manifest, the very odds of that exact event transpiring, the odds of my attention being drawn to it, the odds of something happening day in and day out. So in other words, I was able to manifest coffee after coffee. And then furthermore, I got my friend into it. She manifested over 180 free coffees from different sources in a row. Now, that is astronomical, but what's profound about this is just over the course of getting a few manifestations in a day, the odds weren't just 1 in 10, they weren't just 1 in 50, they were 1 in 1,000, 1 in 1,000,000. And by the time I had 10 different things manifested over the course of a week, 10, 10, 10, the odds of those things happening were essentially, it would be less rare to win the lottery. Now, my mind at this moment took a snapshot of that proof in front of me, and I knew that I would never be the same, because from that perspective, if I continued to test manifesting, then I would be able to prove a verifiable method to manifest whatever I wanted. Now, for me, as someone who was in a very down position, there was only up. I had nothing to lose. I was completely powerless, and that powerlessness was destroying me. So I set out, and like I said, what you see there these are from 2013 till current day, 2025. I have other ones that are missing currently, and then a greater number of them, still handwritten, the experiments that I've written out, are in my e-reader. And then this is only a fraction, maybe 10% or less of the experiments that are actually submitted and extracted now to from you, from people emailing me, from people submitting the surveys. Like 2 weeks ago, I released a survey, got thousands of responses. The data that I've collected is astronomical. I'm talking about comments, I'm talking about emails, I'm talking about the transcripts from my coaching calls, I'm talking about these. And then the Discord community. People comment all the time, the success stories. Now, what's amazing about this is most of that stuff for the first 10 years was all related to what I had tested myself. In other words, my own personal experiences. But over the past 4 years, I began to start to extract the data. And from that data, you can find very clear common denominators. This reality, this world, this universe that we live in has patterns, very clear patterns, right? Sacred geometry is everywhere. In other words, there are aspects of reality that are repeatable from very tiny to very large. And the same thing has been found and discovered for manifestation as well. You just can't use the scientific theories, the same ones that are used today by mainstream scientists, to measure manifestation in the way that we need to, because they place themselves in a straitjacket of sorts and disallowing certain ideologies to be utilized. Now, as someone who has that background in physics, who has that background in math, who has that background in computer science, I've used my skills to feed in this data, extract the data, now using deep learning and artificial intelligence in order to variabilize these rows of experiments and ultimately formulate exactly the common denominators that you need in order to manifest every single time, manifest consistently. If you have the right data, you can determine to a reasonable degree of certainty, a high degree of certainty, 99%, 98%, exactly the success rates of what will occur if you imagine any specific sort of thing. Or in other words, if you want a high rate of success, you can essentially use the desired outcome, and from that, you can extract an exact imaginal act, which will get you your manifestations. So what I'm trying to say here is manifestation is absolutely verifiably true. You yourself, not just myself, right? Again, like I said, my data is only less than 10% of all of the data that I have. And all of the commonalities are similar between my experiences and those who have submitted to me as well, and those that I've extracted randomly throughout the internet. And there are commonalities. There are things you can do today in order to prove and guarantee the results that you're looking for, right? But these, I have not invented these. These are merely discoveries through finding these common denominators, right? I'm not the guy who's created the laws. I'm merely the one who has done what has not been done before. Now, what is amazing about this and why this hasn't been done before? I was asking myself that. I searched everywhere, and I remember in the beginning with law of attraction, I was looking, well, what's the law? How do you raise your vibration? How do you match your vibration? What's the vibration of this? Etc., etc. The truth is these were just merely theories based upon mainstream physics, not even quantum physics. Now, that's important because they were not accurate theories. But when you begin to look closely at these manifestations, when you begin to look, manifestation after manifestation after manifestation, the patterns become very obvious, very simple, very easy, very practical, and very repeatable. In other words, there are no laws that are nuanced. There are no rules that I have seen that are one-off. For this type of manifestation, you do this thing. For that type of manifestation, you do that thing. That is not how it works. There is a unified source, and this is amazing because the data that I have obtained, and there's still a lot more processing on my machine, which I want to take you guys into in future videos now that I have a lot done, but there is a lot of data that proves a lot of what was written in these ancient texts. In other words, what I have found to be absolutely true is those philosophies and religions thousands of years before are far more accurate than mainstream science and quantum physics are today. Now, this isn't a theory. This is something that you can observe. This is verifiable. You don't need to be a scientist in a lab to discover this. You don't need to be a genius. All you need to do is learn how to test properly and observe properly. And that literally just means write things down and look at the results and ask the right questions to yourself. And one of the things I'll throw at you right now is the concept of reality that talks about experience. So in other words, accurate experience representation. One thing that is a common denominator between those who have been successful and those who have not are those who place their proper imaginal faculty where it belongs when you imagine. Now, what does that even mean? Now, this is pretty long to explain, but I'm going to make it simple and explain to you how it can be tested as well. The concept is the initial concept that I was testing against, that I was looking to verify and ultimately only kind of verified and found something incredibly different, was that feeling was the secret. In other words, that emotion or that sort of sensing of the experience of the reality, right? And many mainstream teachers often talk about emotion or gratitude or some sort of representation within your imagination to emulate the gratitude or the feeling of what it would be like to have what you want. What's amazing to find out is those who used gratitude as their core focus in their imagination as they were playing their imaginal scene after the end, which is one of the core, that's an obvious one, imagine after the end. But one of the most interesting things is those who fixated on the emotion of excitement or thrill were actually far less likely to obtain their ultimate end, and usually only received partial manifestations or no manifestation whatsoever, in comparison to those who placed their focus in their awareness when they're imagining on what would actually be witnessed at that moment. So in other words, what was commonly misunderstood and that needed to have clarity on was this thought that an emotional sensation is the key to manifestation. You've heard this before, and often it is an error of understanding the language that it was described with at the time that causes this to happen. Now, this was something that I began to catch on to before I ever began to do these data-driven statistical differential equations. But what I started to surmise was it wasn't about this feeling, right? What would happen would I would imagine something with gratitude. I was trying to manifest money, or I would try to manifest a good grade, or whatever the case was. But what would happen would be that I would actually end up manifesting something vague. Perhaps there would be something related to what I imagined, but it would not be accurate. As opposed to when I began to fixate on the inner dialogue or the thought related to what I would be thinking in that moment, meaning the experience of the individual, the experience, not a feeling of extreme gratitude, not a feeling of thrill, but if you think what you would be thinking and do what you would be doing, then you are far more likely to manifest the outcome. Something like 90% of people who focus, there are other variables at play, right? What I've done is extracted all of the rows of data and extracted the variables that I could out of each one, right? But you will find that they were 90% more likely to achieve their ultimate end if they fixated on what they were thinking along with their imaginal scene, as literally emulating and inserting the thought, like, oh my God, I won, or wow, this is awesome, I just got this grade, or whatever the key thought process was, right? You insert that into your mind instead of evoking this extreme sense of gratitude or thrill or excitement, which is not authentic to the experience itself. Now, there might be tinges of it, but think, for example, look into your entire past and think of the moment you got something you wanted. There might be happiness, but think of after. You're supposed to go after the end. When people go after the end and they represent the thought process that they would be going through, coupled with some of the emotion, but the key here was the thought. That was far more likely to that person was far more likely to receive the manifestation than those who focused on feelings of gratitude or thrill or excitement. There's a lot more that goes along with that, such as the feeling of belief. Again, that's something amazing as well that I discovered through this process. There's so much that I've discovered through this process, not only from my own experiments, but from those that have been submitted, those that have been extracted, and those that have been scraped from the internet. And there is a common thread around them all. There are threads that have been discoveries around belief, right? Well, how do beliefs play a part in manifestation? How do you change beliefs? Do beliefs matter? Imaginal acts. What should you imagine? What shouldn't you imagine? How long should your imaginal act be? How many manifestations should you place into one imaginal act? It's no longer a what works for some people and what works for other people. We're talking about verifiable data that is replicatable and utilizable over and over again. And what's amazing and astounding about this as well, and I'll just give you a taste or a touch of it right now, but so the process of going through all of this data, right? I built software that'll go through, uses advanced deep learning techniques, and effectively allows me to interact with the data. Now, it spat out various different theorems and differential equations that I helped work on as well. But literally, think of it this way: equations and theories that are true across the board of manifestation, right? It's still in the works of processing, but most of this data has already been processed. Right? So in other words, you should be participating in this. This is an extremely exciting time. This has never been done before. This could never have been done before. There has never been a time where it could have been done before. It's only today where we have a mass availability of instant submission of data and experiences. Only today, never before. Never before could you get immediate responses. In other words, usually you had to be in some huge institution or educational system or something in order to, pass out a survey to people and then get the response. But this is brand new. So not only, what's amazing also is, not only can I grab this data, but now there are tools that can be used to variabilize, assign values, extract values from what's been submitted, and ultimately using deep learning and artificial intelligence, get accurate, exact data. And you can even, I created a brief piece of software that you can actually chat with this data, so you can ask questions and receive responses from it. And I will give you some of that. I will show you some of that. And there's a program, an application that I've been building as I talk to you guys. I've been gone for a couple of years, man. I was back on and off, but right, my core thing isn't YouTube, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a software engineer, right? Award-winning software engineer, award-winning social network creator. This is what I have done. I've been creating video games since I was 16 years old, businesses since I was 10 years old, right? But manifestation has taken precedence, so I'm combining what I know how to do and provide it to you in a way that I have used it myself. And I'll tell you right now, from the brink of despair and death, right? I was resuscitated from the activity. I was dead and resuscitated from the activities that I was involving myself in. So from that, get to a more bottom than that, and then go to a place where you've got multiple businesses, successful businesses running, where you're completely free, you have your own house, you're just satisfied, and everything is through manifesting specific person. And not only that, using what I believe is my gift, which is this obsessive pattern extracting nature of myself, to find these common denominators in a way that can be systemized, where it's not just a tradition, it's not just a feeling, I feel like this is the right thing, I did this and this was the right thing. No, this is thousands of pieces of data. In fact, there are tens of thousands of pieces of data that are just my own. Now consider how many other data points, if that's only 10%, there are hundreds of thousands of unique pieces of data, success stories, failure stories, partial manifestation stories, unfinished manifestation stories, any technique, affirmations, imaginal acts, scripting, lullaby method, all of these different variants and variations of manifestation over the course of 13 years. That means not only is this a short and concise experiment, but this is something that spanned. I've never done anything for 13 years except for this, right? Most people thought I was exaggerating when I talked about, I've manifested tens of thousands of things. I've tested this thousands and thousands of times, right? I mean, even Athena herself, my current girlfriend, she thought I was exaggerating when she first heard me on my YouTube long ago, when she first found interest in me. And it's only when she saw this that it really gave her the understanding of what obsession, or what an obsessive person that she's been hanging out with. And I want to show you, and not only do I want to show you, but I want to teach you, and I want to show you what I have discovered, what I have unveiled. Now this, like I said, I did not invent these laws of reality, right? I do not dictate that they must be true. I am not the one who holds it all in place, but the one who does hold it all in place promises that it will never change. And therefore, everything, all the common denominators that worked for me will work for you. All the things that have worked for the people who have manifested relationships and houses and money and health and happiness and mystical experiences, that too, those common denominators, those patterns will work for you. So what I ask of you to do is fill out the survey attached to this video. I need your help in continuously getting the data to sharpen these algorithms that I'm processing with deep learning, and I will show you guys this. The best possible way that they will be accurate and continue to be accurate, which by the way, they have been tested, they are extremely accurate. I've been utilizing this information in my own life, and I've been helping friends and clients by utilizing and referencing this information, this data-driven manifestation system, and it works every single time. All it is the scientific, exacting, data-driven, repeatable system of God, of the universe, of manifestation. So if you want to know exactly how this is done, if you want to be a part of this, if you want to be a part of this amazing movement, get the survey. It's on the description, and you fill that out. The next video is going to have so much more in it. I want to reveal to you guys a lot of the software that I've created. I want to show you the program. I want to show you some of the data, show you what I've done, all the work that I put in to do this. But I promise you this, 13 years have I kept this charade of obsessively manifesting up and tracking every nuanced thing that I possibly can. Now, please, there's no way I could have kept track of everything, right? But I'll tell you, if you have yet to test, what you should do, and I told you I would tell you this, is check out my video on the list method. This is not any other list method you've heard from anyone else. This is the list method that I've used to test manifesting. I created this for the sole fact to master manifesting in the shortest time possible by going through a process. It's a 14-day process, the video that I released recently, and it takes you through the way to master the nuances of manifesting so you don't have to worry or question or wonder what it is that you're listening to if it is actually the right thing, right? Now, there's so much to manifesting. There's so much to it. There's so much to learn. There's so much to practice. There's so much to create. And you can create every single aspect of that thing. You have to ask yourself, what do you want? Do you really want that thing? How bad do you want that thing? When I began to test, I got anxiety. I was afraid that I would prove manifesting wrong. I was afraid that I would learn something that would hurt me because I believed in something else. That is an honest admission from myself. Luckily for myself, it was the complete opposite. It flipped the world on its head for me, and I realized just how much power I had, just how easy manifestation is, and just how quick you can master it. You just need to have the right information and data in front of you at any given time and ask the right questions, and you will master manifesting in no time at all. So if you follow along with me now, keep track of my videos, keep track of my releases, fill out the surveys, be part of this. Submit your success stories in the comments as well here. You do that, you help more than anything else. You'll help more than this video gets across to people. You share that what I'm teaching works. It will. You want to help someone? Do that. That will change someone's life. And also, I'll use it for my data. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much for being here. Definitely fill out that survey and be ready for the next time I will talk to you then. Thank you.